Well, let's talk more about this with Lewi Gardiner, who's from Great Ellingham. His most recent heating oil refill earlier this year cost him £300. This week, following the extreme surge in global crude oil prices, he was quoted £1,500 for the same amount. Lewi is also Operations Director for Macbrook Gas Limited, a local sustainable energy and reliable heating solutions company. Lewi, thanks very much for joining us. Good morning to you.
Morning, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. This is a story that we've had lots of correspondence about. Lots of people really are upset and worried about how they're going to afford to heat their homes. So what's your reading of the situation? We can see what's happening in the Middle East. There's no doubt that crude oil, that the cost is rising. But in terms of how quickly this seems to have been passed on to customers, is this just the way the markets are, or is it your fear or your suspicion that some companies are making money out of this where perhaps they didn't ought to?
Well, it's fuel poverty, really. It's an issue which is usually referenced with gas and electricity and oil, and especially in rural communities, seems to go unnoticed. It's something we work with quite closely on a day-to-day basis, and it's hard to say, really. The companies are doing the best they can. The stability of our day-to-day bills seem to depend on countries and particularly unstable parts of the world staying on track. So it's quite a difficult call to make, really. My own bill was a shock. Fortunately, I've kept some money back, and it's not too much of an issue in that sense. We're prepared for things like this. But what about the people who aren't? Especially in Great Ellingham where we live, it's a rural community. Everyone here is on oil, electric, or LPG, and probably most of them elderly as well. So where do they stand in the situation is more of a question that needs answering by everyone, really.
Yeah, and this is it, isn't it? There are some people who can, it's a nuisance, but they can dip into their savings that they can pay the revised prices. There are some people who can't. There are some people who will not be able to afford to heat their homes as a result of these price rises. Now, I suppose the question is, whose responsibility is it to make sure those people are okay? Is it the fuel companies? Is it the government? What do you think?
So, well, traditionally, it'd be companies like Macbrook Gas, the company I work for. We work in the fuel poverty sector. To give you an example, North Norfolk is an area which is attributed to being affluent. We delivered £2.36 million worth of fully funded projects in that area last year, which was directly linked to fuel poverty. People who were unable to afford the bills and needed heating upgrades, which were provided through a variety of schemes. Them schemes have now been removed, so there's no help for the average person. So I'm guessing people are just going to have to tough it out and hope for the government to step in. I noted that Ed Miliband spoke about it this morning. He was talking about net zero, which is more to do with the energy security. We need to be in control of our own energy. We can't rely on the average person watching the news or the stocks and shares, essentially being a trader on the day-to-day lives to try and dictate what their energy bills are going to be.
Yeah. Do you think that might be one of the knock-on effects here, that there will be an increased determination to make sure that we are not reliant on forces elsewhere, and that we have better energy security? Maybe the green energy movement will kick in quicker? What do you think is going to be the knock-on effect of this?
Well, that's what we would hope would be the case. I know Selwyn Brown at DESNZ and Ed Miliband are quite vocal about the energy security, and they tie it to the net zero, but it is about that homegrown energy. Take Yarmouth for argument's sake. I know you guys mentioned the wind turbines, more electric power produced in this country, and then coupled with upgrading our housing stock, not being dependent on fossil fuels, gas and oil especially, and moving towards that more sustainable market. Air source heat pumps and solar power seems to be the way that we'd recommend to go. Now the technology's moved on as well. It just seems like a more logical approach. Now the help's been removed. There's nothing we or anyone else seems to be able to access to assist people with the bills.
It is interesting, though, isn't it, in the case of Gulf Petroleum, that they have now rowed back on the immediate price rises. Anybody who ordered their oil on the 28th of February, the 1st of March or the 2nd of March, and was then quoted a higher price after they'd already ordered it, that they are actually going to have those original deals honoured. Do you think that is as a result of the government pressure?
I would say so. I don't know if the government have done quite enough. Especially rural communities, I think we're all pushed aside a little bit in the grand scheme of things. So I'd like to see what's going to happen over the course of the next week or two. It depends on obviously what happens with the conflict as well, but I can't see it going away. So I think it needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency, really. Or they need to look at the way they can assist people in accessing the net zero sort of sustainability upgrades, grants, and for heating improvements to stop the reliance on fossil fuels.
Lewi, we'll talk again. You've got a lot of expertise in this industry. Thanks for joining us. Lewi Gardiner from Great Ellingham, who has seen a 400% increase in his oil prices.